On a December night in 1988, a plane fell out of the sky over a small Scottish town. 270 people were gone in an instant. What followed became the largest crime scene the world had ever seen. And in the end, the entire case would rest on a single fragment of circuit board, a piece no bigger than a fingernail, a fragment that people are still arguing about today. December 21st, 1988. Pan Am Flight 103 lifts off from London, bound for New York, full of families heading home for Christmas. 38 minutes later, it vanishes from radar. In the town of Lockerbie below, wreckage falls from the darkness across the hills and streets. 259 people on the plane and 11 on the ground are killed. It is, at the time, the deadliest terrorist attack in British history. The debris does not fall in one place. It is scattered across more than 800 square miles of Scottish countryside. Investigators face an almost impossible task: to search that vast landscape by hand, recover every fragment they can find, and treat each one as evidence. Millions of pieces are collected, logged, and laid out. Slowly, painstakingly, they begin to rebuild the aircraft itself. And as the wreckage comes together, a terrible pattern emerges. The pieces near one point in the forward cargo hold are twisted and pitted in a way that only one thing can cause. Explosive residue confirms it. This was no mechanical failure, no accident. Someone had put a bomb on that plane. From thousands of tiny fragments, investigators reconstruct not just the plane, but the bomb itself. Plastic explosive, hidden inside an ordinary Toshiba radio cassette player, packed into a hard-shell suitcase. The question now was the hardest one of all. Whose suitcase, and how did it get on board? Then, buried in a charred scrap of a shirt collar, forensic scientists find something almost too small to matter. A sliver of green circuit board, no larger than a fingernail. They label it PT/35B. It will become the single most important and most disputed piece of evidence in the entire investigation. Analysts identify the fragment as part of an electronic timer, an MST-13, made by a small Swiss electronics company called Mebo, and Mebo had sold a batch of those timers years earlier to one customer, the government of Libya. In an instant, a fingernail of circuit board had pointed the investigation at a nation. The clothes packed around the bomb carried their own story. Investigators traced them to a single clothing shop on the island of Malta. The owner remembered the sale and described the man who had bought them. From there, the trail led to an unaccompanied suitcase that had traveled from Malta through Frankfurt and onto that flight in London. 2 Libyan men were named as suspects, but bringing them to court took years of tense international negotiation. Finally, a special court was set up at Camp Zeist in the Netherlands, running under Scottish law. And in 2001, 13 years after the bombing, one of the men, Abdelbaset al-Megrahi, was convicted of the murder of 270 people. The other was acquitted. Libya would later accept responsibility and pay compensation. It should have been the end. But almost from the moment of the verdict, the doubts began to grow, and they centered on that fragment. Because when scientists looked closely, the metal coating on PT-35B was nearly pure tin. The timers Mebo had actually sold to Libya were coated with a tin and lead alloy. The two did not match, and the records of exactly how and when the fragment was found appeared to have been altered. So a question hangs over the case to this day. Was Megrahi guilty? Or was he a convenient answer to a crime the world desperately needed solved? He insisted he was innocent until the end. In 2009, dying of cancer, he was released from prison on compassionate grounds and returned to Libya, a decision that deeply wounded many of the victims' families. He died in 2012, his conviction never overturned and never fully trusted, and the case has never truly closed. Appeals have been filed and refused. In 2007, Scotland's official criminal review body found the conviction may have been a miscarriage of justice and sent the case back to appeal. And in 2022, more than 30 years after the bombing, a third man, an alleged Libyan bomb maker, was taken into American custody to face trial in the United States. The full truth of what happened to Flight 103 is somehow still being pursued. 270 people died in the sky over Lockerbie. The investigation that followed was one of the most exhaustive in history, and it may still have convicted the wrong man on the strength of a fragment the size of a fingernail. Somewhere in that unfinished story, the whole truth is still waiting. If it ever surfaces, it breaks here first. Subscribe.